My first ever YouTube live. So I'm really excited to do this and to talk about a very, very key shift in the energies, which is Pluto entering Aquarius for the first time since April 1777. So this is a once in a lifetime transition that we're all going through. So today I'm going to be talking about Pluto in Aquarius, what that's going to look like sort of on an immediate timeline and more on a prolonged timeline. How it should impact you, again, immediately, collectively, and how it will impact all of us socially. So let's just back up, though, before I get into this. So where has Pluto been before and leading up to this? So Pluto is currently in Capricorn. Now, Capricorn is all about really assembling structure, and kind of building hierarchies and consolidating resources. So whenever Pluto is in a sign, it really shapes our subconscious drives and urges. So when Pluto is in Aquarius, as it is now, our subconscious drive is to do these things, to build these sort of institutions, to make things actually quite predictable. And you can see this in the culture. You can see this in the TV shows. You watch Game of Thrones, you watch a movie like The Hunger Games. Or like Succession, shows like that. That really shows the sort of the theme of Pluto and Capricorn. Now, this is... let's see, sorry. I'm just looking into the options. Let's see. Just trying to see if I can read any of the chats in here. Okay. Yeah. So anyways, Pluto and Aquarius, this is going to be a major tectonic shift. When we think about the story of Capricorn and Aquarius, Capricorn is very much about predictability, actually. So Capricorn wants to build a very stable foundation, because when you think about Capricorn season, that's occurring right now when really in the northern hemisphere the days are the shortest. So Capricorn is very much about like, what are the essential things that I need to get out of this darkness? We're not really focusing on finessing anything. We're focusing on like, what are the essential skill sets that I have and what's going to bring me out of this darkness, and back into the light. So Capricorn is a very serious sign. It's very much a sign that's actually in a lot of ways focused on survival, as a lot of the earth signs can be focused on survival, resources, etc. But anyways, so as we get into the Aquarius zone, though, Aquarius is this Promethean flame, bringing the fire, bringing the light, bringing the awareness back into the equation. We think about that time period and that season. We are seeing the days get a little bit longer, but Aquarius is an air sign, right? And Aquarius is also ruled by Saturn. So there is this focus on, working within a structure. But in the modern rulership, we also have Uranus in the mix. And Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. And so when we throw in Uranus, it's actually about elevating our awareness and being more conscious of the collective and the impacts of the collective energies. So that's really the progression, really, from Capricorn to Aquarius. So that's kind of the shift that we're making, but at a collective level, at a subconscious level. So ever since Pluto has been in Capricorn since around 2009, the focus has been a lot more on things like, again, building, a lot of, we've had this mantra of too big to fail. So a lot of corporations getting more power, the stock market being basically disconnected from anything that is going on in the world. So there is this accumulation of assets, capital, power, and concentration of that energy at the top, because Pluto as a planet also rules things like power, control, the subconscious, repression, secrets. And so when we think about where is this power, how is this power being accumulated? Well, it's being accumulated at the top of these hierarchies. So that's really what Pluto in Capricorn is sort of thriving on. But at the same time, before Pluto gets out of this sign of Capricorn, it's not going to leave this sign without excavating some really serious secrets. So Pluto in Capricorn is, it's going to be shifting out of that sign by, mid to late March of this year. And before that time, I really think that there will be some amount of secrets revealed that maybe drive people into this Aquarian territory of thinking about, okay, maybe the structures have become too centralized, too concentrated, too consolidated. It doesn't really work for us anymore. And again, I don't think anybody watching this is naive. Like, we're already aware that the system doesn't work, and we're already aware that some of these corporations are too big to fail. However, there isn't really like a clear direction of like what to do about that. So I really believe that just as a precursor to this entire Pluto and Aquarius era, there is more information coming to light that we're just not aware of right now. And so I think that will galvanize people in a new way. And so Pluto is also following Saturn. So Saturn has been in Aquarius since late 2020. And, when we think about, Saturn is really trying to solidify and materialize things in its whatever sign it's in. And so Pluto is coming in from behind and just tearing down some of that. So with Saturn and Aquarius, we've seen a lot of regulations of things, for example, on the internet, regulation of what can and can't be said, regulation around science. And so Pluto is coming from behind to say, no, this is actually not like what you believe, the fabric of, the reality. So the paradigm of what you believe, the science to say, or what the opinion of your opinion of like the internet and how we should regulate that is, like Pluto is going to unearth that in a new way and basically say like, okay, we need to be using this technology differently. We need to be using this technology in a way that's not actually just, when we think about, even capitalism, a certain slice of the population really, very small percentage of people owning the means of production. I mean, it's like, yeah, that's the prevailing wisdom about capitalism, but Pluto and Aquarius might shake that up. Pluto and Aquarius might change that calculus a little bit and that power balance. So I actually think Pluto and Aquarius in some ways is going to shift the balance of power. It's not going to happen overnight. Pluto is in a sign for 15 to 20 years. So I'm under no illusion that Pluto and Aquarius is just going to turn everything into like this digital Woodstock. But it might over time. So what's happening here, like think about where we are now. So I'm going to give you a snapshot of where we are now versus where we are in 2009. So what has really changed in society fundamentally since Pluto has entered Capricorn, and how does that kind of tee up the Aquarius theme? So what I actually see as the biggest change is just the sheer, the proliferation of really convenient technologies. Like, if you really had to like take yourself out of like the present day, pretend you're an alien coming to planet Earth, and you're watching these changes, in somehow you're watching these things really speed up. It's like the technology has changed a lot relative to, human history, but even 10 years, 15 years ago. And so why is that important? Well, it's important because technology is finally at a point where it's allowing people to disconnect from their prior kind of corporate, we'll call it tyranny. So under, Pluto in Capricorn at the beginning, it's kind of like we had this like sort of sub-generation, this era of like being obsessed with like our LinkedIn profiles, or having a job at like a well-known company and like working our way up the ladder. Like I went through that in New York City, like when I was working for Scott Galloway and all these other people, like these entrepreneurs, it's like I really wanted to be like them. I wanted to sort of emulate their model for success. But, I realized at a certain point that a lot of us were just being shepherded through these corporations that didn't really care about us. Like whether it was like a sexy startup or if it was, kind of just a run-of-the-mill company, it's like at the end of the day, it's like same thing. You're just dressing it up differently. Like you still have the same thing, expectations around showing up on time, handing in the project on time, etc. And I don't really think that it empowers people, even though companies pretend to be your friend. They pretend to have a cafeteria for you and everything's great. It's like we're still kind of going through this revolving door where it's like we don't really own the means of production though. So what I see changing though, and this is already underway, is that there are actually a lot of technologies that allow anybody, almost anybody in the world to become an entrepreneur whenever they want. So Aquarius is actually about the individual. And it's also about how the individual fits within the fabric and the mosaic of society. And thank you, Whimsical Farm Girl. Thank you very much. This is my first time going live on YouTube. And by the way, if you want to track what I'm doing off this channel, I'm also on TikTok, of course. That's where I have 200,000+ followers, and I go live there every other day. So this is a very foreign environment for me. Thank you for the comment, Zydacy. So usually I'm going live on TikTok. Sometimes I go live on Instagram, but I plan to go live on YouTube much more frequently. So my plan is to go live on this channel once a week, today, usually to talk about the energy of the upcoming week. But this is a special live. Yoko, thank you for joining. This is a special live because this is my first YouTube live. So I want to crush this. So let's talk about Pluto and Aquarius. A lot of astrologers are looking forward to Pluto and Aquarius, myself included. I want to give you my own spin because, the honest answer, no astrologer is going to cover the entire terrain of Pluto and Aquarius because we all are sort of the prisoners of our own minds. Please do, because I'm not on the other platforms. Well, yes, this is one of the reasons I want to be on YouTube. Gemini Rising, good evening from Cincinnati. Hello, I'm in Los Angeles. Glad to see we're getting a nice group from across the world here, and this is a big transit. Obviously, Pluto and Aquarius doesn't happen it has never happened in our lifetime. So I want to give you my perspective. And admittedly, and I really believe every astrologer is going to be a little bit subjective, right? In terms of like what they focus on in the transits. And that's fine, and I have a very specific experience that I kind of think makes me a unique astrologer, which is that I was very much in New York City during the post-recession era, like the Pluto and Capricorn era. Like I was in New York working for Scott Galloway, Henry Blodgett, all these entrepreneurs. And, I was walking down Broadway and Fifth Avenue like every day, going to the corporate lunches and happy hours. Like I really lived the Pluto and Capricorn era. Like I really feel like I was kind of like in the epicenter of it. Joe, hello from New Zealand. Wow, this is a really eclectic group. I love it. Pluto and Capricorn has been, it has been like sort of like a lot of people getting high on corporate power. And we've seen the misuse of that power, of course. We've seen the misuse of that power all over the news. But in your own life, like how does that affect you? It's really about, this era has been about people wanting to belong. A lot of people have identified with their company. A lot of people have identified with their corporation, for better or worse, consciously or unconsciously. Like whatever you think about the companies that you work with or work for, it's like, they've been part of your family and part of the fabric of your reality in a way that it never has been before, because companies want you to think that they're on your side and that they're really taking care of you. So again, like you think about the cafeterias that companies have. You think about, companies would even have like beds and places to sleep. And, we would think about, I remember when I was working at Business Insider, we had a pool table. I remember the bailouts. Yes, I remember the bailouts and thinking how the Pluto and Capricorn that was, was watching. Oh, wow. Yeah, Gemini Rising. I heard about that on Twitter. That's really sad. So I'm hoping that he ends up being okay. But yeah, I mean, Pluto and Capricorn, the mantra has been too big to fail. And, you think about this era, it's been this era just awash in cash of startups getting bought out. Startups getting bought out for hundreds of millions of dollars for, business like products that are kind of not necessarily like very abstract, and it's not clear at all how they benefit people. But so, all of that is to say that there's been like two tracks happening at the same time, which is that almost everybody in the last 15 years has probably slotted themselves into some type of company at some point. And I'm speaking mostly to the working world here. I know some people are probably students and have not entered the workforce yet. But if you are, if you're really in that sort of time of your life, like whatever you feel about corporations, again, like you've probably worked for them, right? And you've like bought into the system because we have to, because the corporations have so much power at this point. But when Pluto's in Capricorn, things get really top heavy. So when things get top heavy, eventually it has to, change direction. And the momentum is going to shift away from some of these sort of centralized powers in towards you and me. And I, not to toot my own horn here, but I am an example of this shift from Capricorn to Aquarius. Because again, I spent many years, 7 years, which is a quarter Saturn cycle, living in New York, working at a company, doing the damn thing, just getting a paycheck. But then during the lockdown, I found a way to, monetize, basically to find a way to become an astrologer. And how did I do that? I plugged into a bunch of amazing technological platforms. So step one for me, beyond learning astrology, was to actually project my wisdom onto TikTok. And someone told me, and I was posting reels on Instagram and they weren't really going anywhere. And one of my friends just said, you should just try TikTok. This was in 2021. Just try it. It's pretty new, but just give it a chance. I started posting astrology videos on TikTok, and I was getting 1 million views a week. And it was just, and within 6 months, I had the capital to leave my corporate job. Now that's an amazing timeline. That's an acceleration. In Aquarius, things happen really fast. So with Pluto and Aquarius, and thank you for the comment, Whimsical Farm Girl. I'm glad I can do this for you all. Now, with Pluto and Aquarius, you can shift gears super, super fast. And within 6 months, it's like all of a sudden, it's like I have a full-fledged business, and I have, a website, and I have courses and videos, and I'm doing readings and all these things. And that's just to illustrate like a first-hand account of how these technological platforms can actually liberate you from the typical work model. And that goes for anything, not just astrology, right? So that goes for if you're a wedding planner, if you're an expert in, some other field, you're an expert in, painting houses. I don't know what it is. Like whatever you're an expert in, you can now broadcast that on the internet and find people who need your services. If you'd rather make money just playing video games and people watch you play video games on Twitch, that's another career for you. So what I'm saying with all this is that Pluto and Aquarius is going to give people even more nimble ways to become their own boss. And with Aquarius, the ideal manifestation of Aquarius is sort of this very libertarian, entrepreneurial terrain where it's like everybody's kind of okay on their own. But there is still a social contract, theoretically, that we all buy into and that we all hook into, which is that we trade a little bit of latitude for safety. But but even that will be called into question, I think, when Pluto is in Aquarius. I think borders and boundaries between nations will change and might not become that relevant. So what's going to happen during Pluto and Aquarius is technology is going to keep progressing and accelerating to the point where people are kind of where a lot of jobs are displaced. So a lot of habitual jobs that don't necessarily require a ton of really, really sophisticated thought are going to be automated. But the thing about Pluto and Aquarius is it's going to replace even highly sophisticated jobs as well. So jobs that you think right now could never be replaced are going to be replaced. And that includes graphic designers. That includes, so let me address the questions here. 9th house, midheaven. So Gemini rising, I guess that's going to be your 9th house. That's actually really good for kind of attaining the power of persuasion. When you have Pluto in your 9th house, you have a lot of power and strength when you proselytize and evangelize things that you care about. You could convince people of a lot of things. You could be a very powerful teacher. You could start some type of organization around a certain ideal. I actually think Pluto in the 9th can really, really be a magnetic type of teacher. So that's interesting. So let me address the other comment. Do you think there's any relation to unique, or potentially runaway AI? Well, that's kind of a dovetail with what I was about to talk about. So when we think about the technology, where is it going? I think that runaway is probably the right term. So technology is running away. It's escaping our control. So Pluto in Capricorn, everything's very cookie cutter and controlled and ironed out, right? So everything's like a corporation is deciding, Q4 is going to look like this. We're going to engineer the marketplace. We're going to engineer our customers so that we guarantee a certain growth rate in Q4, in Q1, in Q2. And so Pluto in Capricorn was the era of predictable earnings calls. And even when economists were spreading all kinds of doom and gloom messages about, there's another recession on the way. I can't even I don't even remember how many articles did I read in the last 10 years? There's going to be a recession tomorrow. There's going to be a recession in a month. It never happened. What happened was obviously 2020, there was a huge dip in the stock market for a while, but generally speaking, the stocks have continued to grow despite what people are saying. And, you know, that to me is Pluto and Capricorn. It's like the ultimate control at the top. So if you're like the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, you can pretty much control the trajectory of your company at this point. You can control the amount of taxes that you pay. You can control pretty much anything, and you can insulate your business from scrutiny. You can insulate your business from any kind of challenge. But that's starting to change because with the technology running away, as one viewer mentioned, the technology is running away and is at an escape velocity. So what's going to happen is technology and AI is going to start being able to mimic graphic designers, musicians, actors, yes, maybe even astrologers at some point. So any position, any job that you think is out of the hands of technology and AI will catch up to that. And we will reach a point where AI is self-evolving, it's self-sufficient, it's conscious. And my point though is that it will actually unhook us from some of these companies. So my journey is just one of many. So again, I went from corporate schmuck to full-time astrologer in 6 months. And that's pretty fucking crazy. But for every one of me, there's thousands and millions of others. And there's going to be even more. So I'm actually thinking, honestly, like looking at like the technology that I have right now. So before this live, I set up like 3 astrology courses over the next few weeks. I set it all up on my website, the discounts and everything, and in a matter of hours. So it's like what I'm saying is, I think it'll hit a point while Pluto's in Aquarius where you're kind of looking around and you're basically saying it's almost like not normal to be working for a company anymore. Like there will become a point where everybody has the tools to be their own boss and their own entrepreneur, because the AI will know exactly who you're supposed to reach and with what skills you're supposed to reach them in a moment's notice. And the world is your marketplace at a certain point. So in 100 years ago, your customers were the people in your town. Like, good fucking luck. Like, you only have so many people that you're living next to. But now with Pluto and Aquarius, there will be this marketplace, a virtual marketplace. Maybe, I'm not saying it's the metaverse per se, but you probably strap on your goggles, you enter some type of metaverse or virtual reality, and you're hooked into a global marketplace that's way more interactive than what we have now. It's 3-dimensional. You can literally go up to somebody and have a conversation with them in the digital realm. But it's like somehow the AI just knows that you're supposed to meet that person. The AI knows that you're supposed to sell this product to that person. And you talk about synchronicities now in a spiritual context. You talk about 111 and 222, and you see all these angel numbers. The AI is going to be feeling serendipitous all the time. So there's going to be AI that's constructed in a way where it feels like, oh my God, how did you know that I needed this? I was thirsty for this product right now. How did you know that I needed to talk to this person right now? So that's really gonna mess with our concepts of what is synchronicity, what is serendipity, what is fate, because the AI and the algorithms will be able to create this world in which we feel like everything is fated, and the concept of time is going to get trippy. Exactly. So, to be honest with you, I haven't really seen like a really solid takedown of what Pluto and Aquarius is going to mean, because, I don't really think that people are really focused enough on where exactly is the technology going to go this time around. Because a generic prediction of Pluto and Aquarius would be, technology is going to change and technology is going to evolve. But it's like, I can tell you as someone who was in the tech world throughout the 2010s and into the 2020s, it's like it is going to hit an escape velocity and just build on the things we already know, right? We already know what Pluto and Aquarius looks like because we are aware of the information age. We're in the information age. It's just that this whole thing is going to exacerbate to the point where it is going to make it difficult for let's call them the owners of production, right? It's going to become more difficult for the owners of production to control your time and to control your life. Like, I really don't think that they're going to have as much power for a while. There will be a time where technology is like in a sweet spot because it's not there yet. We're not quite there yet, but eventually. You think about TikTok, for example. I can make a video every day, and the algorithm will pair my video with at least maybe 500,000 people. So at least 500,000 people will see my TikTok videos every single day. It's not because I'm a genius. It's because the videos that I make, there's an algorithm that sits in between me and the audience that knows exactly who needs to see that video. And so someone like me, who honestly had no other chance of being well known, pretty much. I mean, I'm a musician, but it's not like I was, playing arenas. All of a sudden, the algorithm gave me a path to success. And it's not that fame is the goal, right? But it's just that algorithms are getting to a point where they can pair you and me and anybody up with massive groups of people, and you can get your message across. Well, guess what? That's just going to start happening in real time. So everybody watching this video, you probably have something that you need to say right now that's super relevant to at least 100,000 people. I fucking guarantee you. There's probably something that you have to say. There's probably something that you can say right now that would hit a lot of people right in the soul, right? Gemini rising was meant to be here. I agree with you. And by the way, everyone watching this live, you are my very first YouTube live audience. So let's just embrace that. So hopefully I'm not fucking up. Of course, you're a musician, Tina Davis. Yes. Can't you tell by the weird sweater? I mean, this sweater is almost kind of Aquarian in a way. But anyway, so what's going to happen is that everybody will be able to reach everybody that's relevant to them with the message that they need to say right now. So there will be these ultimately sort of these powerful and mystifying algorithms that will connect and create this global real-time marketplace where it's like, imagine you're at a party. Imagine you're at a party. We're all in the same room. We're all talking. There's a network of conversations going on. Literally imagine a digital universe, a metaverse, a virtual reality where algorithms will get that message where it's like, just as I'm talking to somebody at a house party, you will be talking to 100,000 people at once without thinking about it. You will be talking to massive groups of people with your message for a microsecond or two, and then the conversation will shift to somebody else. I honestly think that the whole concept of fame is going to be eliminated. Like, fame is just going to jump the shark. Everybody in the world will be able to really impact. Like, I'm talking like hundreds of thousands of people for seconds at a time. But it will be so quick that we don't really know what does it mean to be well known? What does it mean to be famous when you can reach those people in real time? Because right now we're not at real time. Like, you still have to post the video, and it's disconnected from you because I have to produce the video, I have to hit the play button or the send button, and then watch the views kind of trickle in. It's not real time yet, but eventually those types of matching algorithms, that's really what they are. They're just matching producers of content with the audience that will live in your everyday fabric of a multiverse. So what that means is, and Gemini rising is talking about this, I have faith in our free speech and we'll get better in time. I agree. I agree. I think so with Pluto and Aquarius, the stakes are up here. So it can go two different directions. With Pluto and Aquarius, it can go two different directions. Now, number one is that the technology could become so sophisticated that you can, Gemini rising, you can say exactly what is on your mind to the audience that's not going to be perturbed by it, that's not going to be thrown off by it, that's going to really agree with you, but who's going to need to hear your message. So if you have some firm conviction about something and you want to tell 100,000 people about that, you can reach them. And those people will be receptive to your message. And the algorithm will know that those people are trying to have that thought that you're having right now, but what you're about to say is going to elevate their consciousness. And what is Aquarius all about? It's about crystallization of consciousness. So people will receive the exact message that they need to hear through these sophisticated algorithms that will wake them up. And so technology will usher in awakening of some kind. Now, it doesn't matter what the person's hearing or why they need to wake up, but they will wake up. So they will get the message. And they will get the message from people who are more enlightened than them. And those enlightened people will enlighten those disciples, we'll call them. So, you're going to have everyone's going to have their little digital Christ moment where they just wake up a bunch of people. where they wake up, they start a little movement. Now, the thing is, these movements are going to be so quick that nobody's going to be able to remember them. So you wake up 100,000 people, you give a lecture in the metaverse, you make up this profound statement, you wake a bunch of people up, and now they're awake. It's like the opposite of zombies, right? So we're starting to really spread the awareness. And that's the positive side of Aquarian technology. Now, the negative side, and this is the dark side of Aquarius, whoever controls the technology controls consciousness at that point, in theory, right? So whoever owns the platforms, whoever owns these universes that we're operating in, they can skew it so that you don't reach the right people, right? So they could skew it. This is, so the metaverse, or the virtual reality I'm describing, is sort of an ideal scenario where, again, the right people are getting the right message at the right time so that they wake up. Now, that's ideal. Whimsical Farm Girl, thank you very much. I appreciate the compliment. Yes, a benevolent Aquarius. This is what a benevolent Aquarius would do. Everybody should have the liberty, again, say what they need to say at the right time. Now, the dark side of Aquarius is that there will be people who decide what you can and can't say, what you can and can't do, and who you can and can't reach based on who you are, your social capital, based on, who you are, based on how you come across. Like, it can get very segregated. And so you could even have this false reality where you think you're reaching 100,000 people and you're not. You're reaching 0 people. But the algorithm has made it so that you really feel the impact. You feel like it's happening. It mimics that. Now, again, when I started blowing up on TikTok, I had that thought. I was thinking, are any of these people real? And luckily, I quickly realized that in this case they were, because I set up my website and I started getting site traffic and I got clients, and that translated to like my business. But I do think in the future, we might have platforms where people, how like people pretend like they're on, you can like pretend like you're on Newsweek, and you can like stitch your face onto the cover of a magazine and say like, I was person of the year, Time Magazine's person of the year. The technology will get to a point where anyone can live in their own hero's journey in their mind. So you can step into a metaverse, you can step into a virtual reality, and you can basically step into your own movie. You can step into your own movie and you can design the plot. You can say, I want to be Leonardo DiCaprio in the Titanic meets, underwater Avatar. And it's like, okay, so you're going to be like a tragic hero, but maybe when you fall off the ship, you jump into the ocean and then it turns into like this, that kind of stuff. And that's getting kind of Piscean, but I do think that we're kind of getting into the collective territory at this point, like Aquarius, Pisces, it's all transpersonal at that point. But my point is, you will be able to design your own narrative in your own life in this virtual space. And you will basically design it so that you win, so that you become that Christ figure, so that you wake up all these people. Maybe you want to play Willem Dafoe in The Last Temptation of Christ. Like, I don't know. Gemini Rising is asking, if you have your own platform, they can't control the conversation and the connection. Well, yes, that's true. However, they might. What I'm saying is that they might centralize the platform so that either you have to use that to reach anybody, where it's a monopoly or a duopoly, where there's, and I think this is what's going to happen. There's only going to be like 2 or 3 platforms at that point. And it's going to be the platforms that like deliver the best experience possible. And what is that experience? Again, it's a virtual sort of movie that you're living inside of. And I think it will be customized, though, to be so alluring. With Pluto, it's our urges. It's like, we really want this. Like, I really want to be Keanu Reeves in The Matrix. Like, I want to live that. And you'll be able to live that story. But once you live that, and you're inside of that, what do you, like, are you actually doing anything for the world? It's like you're not, right? So a lot of people are going to live in these vegetative states where they are not functional. They are not useful. They have no utility in society apart from consuming this digital information and maybe somehow giving resources to this company, which in the Matrix, of course, people were literally just vessels for energy and electricity. But like whatever that is, like you're probably like you want to avoid this brain in a vat scenario, right? So you don't want to become the brain in the vat. So the technology is going to become so alluring that people will want to take that path of least resistance and not do anything. So what I'm saying is I think that the age of Aquarius, well, specifically Pluto and Aquarius, there will be this false reality that a lot of people buy into where it's like, I am having an impact. I am the hero, you know, but it's not actually, nothing's actually happening. But then again, like I said, there is the positive side, which is that there are people who legitimately want to collectivize, want to, you know, really network with other like-minded people. Because think about it. You, like, nobody here right now on the planet actually knows that they've met every single person that they're supposed to meet, or every person who's right for them, or every person who wants to really could have a really engaging conversation with them. But eventually the algorithms will make it so that you can do that. Eventually the algorithms will be able to pair you with like-minded people all over the world, and you'll actually be able to have a conversation with them in a digital space probably, but you'll be holograms, or you'll be able to talk to each other as if you're in the same room. And you will truly know, like, who are your friends? Who are your lovers? Who are your partners? Who are, so-and-so? What if there's a human algorithm that happens instead of AI? Telepathic psychic connection. And that's the next, so that's a great question, because that's where I was going next. So what is Pluto about? Pluto is about the subconscious, and it can rule things like psychic abilities. So Pluto in Aquarius means, and I said this on a TikTok live a couple months ago, I do think psychics and astrologers will be involved in the development of technology. So we will be able to automate, we might be able to automate psychic powers, right? So that's really weird, right? When we think about like the Neuralink that Elon Musk is trying to work on, like, we will probably need spiritual practitioners to help with all of this, to understand, like, how does energy live in the body? Like, I actually think psychics and astrologers will play a huge role in this phase. Now the question becomes, do we want to outsource that? Do we want to automate these really profound transcendental states? And I personally don't think so. I don't think we want to do that. But I do think there's a possibility during Pluto and Aquarius that we will somehow get the technology to be able to psychically link with people and read people. You know, and then, and Whimsical Farm Girl, I will have a random thought, she says, and then someone will say it within hours. Yes, and this is something I've experienced on TikTok. So a few months ago, I bought a Christ consciousness stone because I wanted to try to channel the collective in some way. Now, I don't know per se if that's what happened, but I started posting TikToks where I would go outside and I would look for symbolism in my everyday life that reflected the upcoming eclipse or the upcoming new moon or full moon, and I would talk about it on TikTok. So last spring, during the first eclipse, the Scorpio lunar eclipse, I talked about, you know, how people shouldn't be surprised if they see spiders over the next 24 hours. Now, admittedly, spiders are a fairly common phenomenon, but when I posted that video, something like 70,000 people watched it within 24 hours, and they were all saying, I saw these things. I saw these spiders. What you said came true. And so even like already it's happening with Synchronicities, where I broadcast a message. And people are witnessing that in their own lives. So before the internet, we didn't really know if people were having the same dreams or the same thoughts at the same time. But now it's like, again, when I post a video and I say, did you have a dream that you were on an island, or that you were swimming in an ocean because Neptune was opposing the moon or whatever? I get confirmation from thousands of people that they did dream that they had a dream with that archetype. So what we're talking about now is we're able to run these basically experiments with the internet that maybe people are having the same thoughts at the same time, that go way outside the bounds of usual traditional experiments. Because usually you only put 100 people into a room, your sample size is nothing. Now with the internet, we like truly know if people are on the same page. And when you post astrology content, you get that confirmation. Like when there's a Saturn-Venus square in the sky, I'll, again, post about that, and people are like, yeah, I'm feeling really pessimistic about my relationships. And I'll do monthly forecasts on TikTok and say, this is what's coming for you in this month. And all these people with the same signs will say, I did that, or that happened to me. That prediction was accurate. So now we're getting confirmation that astrology, first of all, is a legitimate practice for making predictions. You can actually predict the themes of people's lives using astrology, and the internet has proven that. There's no other reason why an astrologer like myself would get millions of views on a forecast unless it was resonating with people and they were, and I have thousands of comments confirming these things. So we have to investigate what this is all about. And I think we already know, you and I watching this know what this is all about. It's because astrology is showing us that the configuration of planets creates certain vibrations within the net, or the sort of the backdrop of our energetic field. And those configurations create those vibrations, and those vibrations ripple to us, and those vibrations affect certain chakras within our system. And that also affects the rainbow body that in the hologram that we are. So, you know, I think, and I'm not saying that I have all the keys to knowledge here, but when I meditate, I think it's pretty obvious that we are holograms. There is a rainbow body that reflects off of us. We have chakra systems, and the planets are the conduits for these vibrations in our solar system. Now, that's not to say that the planets in our solar system are all there is. There's, of course, other galaxies and that are vibrating with, they're emanating their own specific hertz and frequency. And as a musician, I can totally understand and empathize with that theory. But you know, with the Pluto and Aquarius, I think we actually might get closer to understanding this on a collective level. So a lot of people think astrology is bullshit. A lot of people think that spirituality is not real or whatever. But, you know, us watching, we already know how this works. We can meditate, we can go inward. But now with the internet, hopefully we can find enough people who are going through documented cases of the same thing at the same time when the planets are in the same place. And we'll have a much broader proof, basically, that astrology is really useful. So anyways, that's all to say, Pluto and Aquarius is building the architecture, the technological architecture, for anyone and everyone to go their own route, to untether and unlink from a corporation, to not work for anybody, right? To be your own boss, and to awaken other people through communication channels, through social media. There will be algorithms that connect the right people with the right message at the right time, or with the right audience at the right time. That will happen in real time. Fame will not be a thing anymore, and borders and boundaries will be ever more elusive. Now, again, the downside is who controls that technology, and whoever controls that technology theoretically controls our consciousness because they have so much power. Now, what else is going to happen while Pluto's in Aquarius? I'm not going to dwell on the other themes because I really wanted to focus on that for tonight, but other things that could occur with Pluto and Aquarius is generally we could see, you know, with Aquarius ruling politics, you know, and legislature and groups and communities and organizations. I do think Pluto and Aquarius will really lead to the upturning of a lot of political organizations. The way that we really even delegate power, who represents you, that will be called into question. So the whole concept of no taxation without representation, you know, you think about that as a precursor to revolution. You know, with Pluto and Aquarius, it's kind of like, how much lower can the faith in our politicians go? Like, I don't think it could go much lower, right? I think it's kind of at its bottom. And so what does that mean? That corrosion in trust. That means new committees, new organizations, new concepts of government. Like, I really think that's coming. And I don't know exactly how that will pan out, but I can definitely tell you, you're not going to recognize the way that government is run in 10 years. And hopefully with the internet, again, maybe there's a system where everybody can be their own representative, where it's like if you want to design a new a legislative bill, instead of having one politician represent millions of people in their district, you might be your own representative, and you might be able to throw in an idea, and the algorithm basically amalgamates everybody's idea and literally calculates what is the ideal law based on every single person's idea. Like, every single person. That is pretty fucking wild, right? And that sounds crazy, but I don't think it's crazy. And I actually don't think it's a bad idea. And I know the danger, again, with Pluto and Aquarius is who owns the technology, right? Who owns the technology? Could they skew the results of that? But ideally, with Pluto and Aquarius, you could legitimately design a real-time legislative system where you draft a bill where we all draft a bill simultaneously, collectively, based on everyone's input. That would be pretty interesting. Then we would get rid of elections, the election cycle. We would get rid of power dynamics. There could be an algorithm that sits in the middle that is purely democratic, where it's like one person represents one vote. Now, of course, I'm not an idealist. I'm not a utopian, whatever. I don't think this is actually going to happen per se, but I think that we might try. We might try. Like some fringe organization might try to design this. And that would be the end of politicians, right? So really think about technology during Pluto and Aquarius as eliminating the middleman. It's disintermediating, right? It's disintermediating a lot of processes. And you think about the blockchain is supposed to do that. It's supposed to take out the middleman. So that would be a really nice Pluto and Aquarius. Another manifestation of Pluto and Aquarius to keep in mind is that Pluto and Aquarius will probably be the 1960s on steroids in a lot of ways. Because why is that? It's because Pluto was in Virgo during the 1960s, and Virgo is ruled by Mercury. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. So when you kind of perform the deductive logic on that, you realize, okay, well, Pluto and Aquarius is basically going to be like that Pluto-Uranus conjunction in Virgo, which was in the late 60s, which is a total shift in, it's a leap forward in progress. Like, we're really making progress. We had Woodstock. We had these collective gatherings. We had the proliferation of maybe new ways to feel transcendental, right? And think about where this will be happening this time around. It'll be happening in that virtual reality. So you'll have a digital Woodstock. You will have massive raves, massive concerts that are global. In real time, people just show up. And, when we think about Uranus, that Pluto-Uranus conjunction, like that to me was just a preview of this coming time period. So the late 1960s was literally just a preview of now, of what's coming over the next 20 years. Now, the last thing I was going to say is that when you combine this with Saturn and Pisces, which is coming up, you're also going to have a different concept of what it means to heal and treat yourself. So what I see with Pluto and Aquarius is a lot more natural solutions and remedies that people are going to hook into. So the whole concept of psychedelics and herbal treatments, like that kind of stuff is going to really catch on. And natural remedies will overtake this concept of, prescriptions and the fact that you need prescription, a synthetic thing that may or may not will actually do more harm than good. That will be one path. Another path will be that some people take the other version of the science to the nth degree, where they want everything to be synthetic and they want everything to be bionic. And they think, there's probably a pill for everything. There's a solution for everything. Now, those people, in my opinion, are taking the wrong path, and they're probably going to end up very sad. But, for everybody else, it's like, now we understand that the ancients actually knew a lot more than us about how to treat things. The ancients actually had natural remedies that are super useful, and that can actually heal us. So Pluto and Aquarius is not just about technology. It's not just about technology. It's about awakening to our collective, timeless energy that goes back to other ancient societies, right? So we are awakening the parts of our brain that have been shut off by Pluto and Capricorn, especially, just keeping everybody in a low state, just working for the man. We're not going to have to work for the man anymore. I promise you, we will have the technology where anyone can be, again, anyone can run their own show and be their own boss. And with that freedom, people will start to think a little bit more about their purpose. And what are we trying to do in society? So stop trying to, stop working to live and live to work. We're going to flip that paradigm. I do think people will live to work during Pluto and Aquarius. They will find their purpose through these new methods of communication that will link them to the right people. So if you feel like a misfit, if you feel kind of alienated from your own immediate community, maybe you don't get along with your family, your siblings, your neighbors, your friends are boring you lately, Pluto and Aquarius is going to open the social marketplace for you in a way that just hasn't happened yet. So like I know a lot of people think that social media so far has been a net negative and it's been totally, unfulfilling. The thing is, I do think we'll have the technology to really connect people with the right people. Like I really think the algorithms will get there. We'll get to the point where it's seamless, right? And it feels like you can actually find that person who doesn't make you feel like a misfit. And it's like, allow the algorithm to help you out, right? Like Hinge and all these dating apps, like it's not that fun, right? It's not that fun. You're swiping right and left, and it's a really arduous process, and you may or may not get any hits. You may or may not even have any interesting conversations. But that's because the technology just isn't there yet. So when Pluto and Aquarius happens, we will develop this ability to connect our psyche to the platforms along with everybody else's anonymously. So the algorithm literally pairs you with the right person for you. And you might think, I'm not going to buy into this because I don't want to be arranged with my soulmate. But once you have enough friends who try this and they meet their soulmate through this technology, you're going to wonder if it's right for you. You're going to think it might be right for you. And so, again, you might be creeped out by some of this. You might think that this is sort of a dystopian future. But that's kind of that's the eye of the beholder. That's this whole thing, this whole Pluto and Aquarius era is a dichotomy, and it's an oxymoron. It's ironic, and it's confusing. Because basically, everything that's developing is sort of a bright, shiny object, and it's actually kind of amazing. But then it's up to you to decide if it's actually fulfilling your soul and what your soul is yearning for. And I guarantee you, there will be a really strong argument to buy into these technologies. This duality, that's the word I was looking for. So this duality, you will know people who meet their soulmate 10 times out of 10 on this platform or in this metaverse. You will know people who reach 100,000 people saying what they need to say on this platform. It's up to you to decide if that's actually an awakening, if that's actually improving my life, or if that's a false reality. And I don't know the answer. And I don't think any of us knows the answer. But that's going to be the prevailing question in this dialectic. Is this awakening? Is this an awakening or not? So anyways, thank you for joining my live. I feel like this was really fun for me to do. I feel like it was hopefully useful. And I think I'll post this to my YouTube page. So if you feel like sharing this in the future, feel free to do that. But I want to thank you, all the viewers, for joining my very first YouTube live. It was a lot of fun. So I'll be here once a week, not necessarily at this exact time, but just look out for me. I think you can set notifications. Thank you, Gemini Rising, for joining. Really appreciate you participating. Whimsical Farm Girl, likewise. Eve, thank you. Thank you for joining. And I will see you all very soon. So once I figure out how to exit this thing. Thank you again. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon. And by the way, if you want a reading from me, go to my website. If you want to figure out what's happening for your sign in 2023, download my 2023 forecasts also through my website. And check me out on TikTok, Instagram, other channels as well. And I'm hosting an astrology retreat in Croatia this year. So from August 31st to September 6th, I will be in Croatia. You travel with me for a week. We'll also, go sightseeing, go along the Adriatic coast in the Mediterranean. And I will be teaching custom astrology workshops that you can't find anywhere else. And everybody who attends the retreat gets a complimentary birth chart reading. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to send me an email or direct message me on Instagram. The info about that is also through my main website. So if you go to evannathanielgrim.com, you will find all my information. Also, you can go to innerworldsastrology.com. Same concept, but anyways, thank you so much. And Gemini Rising, thank you. Have a good evening. Take care.